Hey guys, welcome back to the Arthritis Podcast, official podcast of digital and creative media works, where each week we take something from pop culture and try to break it down to better understand it. My name is David.
Oh, my name is Ben. Hello. Hey, David. How's it going?
The last 6 weeks of introductions have been, every time I finish my bit, someone has some kind of bodily malfunction.
You're just worried. You don't know what's going to come.
It stresses me out.
Yeah.
Look, this month is a short month, so we figured we keep the theme as vague as possible.
So we're talking about a vague film. You can do the title.
I don't like it when you do the segues.
No,
They're
it's
not
fine.
very
You can
bad. Well, last week we talked about Captain Marvel, which kind of reinvented the superhero origin story. So this week we figured, what better than to talk about a film which ostensibly
doesn't do fuck all.
reinterprets what video game movies are, for better or for worse. Because this week we're talking about the reinvention of Serenity.
2019.
Not to be confused with the film Serenity from 2005, which was the closure to the TV show Firefly.
The reinvention of Firefly. Serenity 2005.
This film, I want to start with, like, did you know anything about it going in?
I knew that, well, because you had told me that it's like the worst or like the best video game film.
I shouldn't have ruined it.
And I completely forgot about that.
No one...
I completely forgot.
No, okay, but like, what do you... Okay, I'll tell you the backstory of this film.
I had been told that it was like, oh, it's like 3 films in one, which I don't agree with entirely, but... Yeah, that's all. I just knew it was a bit of a weird film, and there was a guy trying to get a fish.
Catch a fish called Justice.
Yeah,
so when the film came out, no one knew that twist was in it. Like, they didn't... It wasn't...
Yeah.
It was, part
it was
of
not advertised that
It was
way.
advertised as like a straight thriller,
Yeah.
right? And it turns out to be this neo-noir thriller, also video game.
Video games.
It's so fucking weird.
Fucking dumb.
It was written and produced by Stephen Knight, and it follows the story of a boat captain who was approached by his ex-wife to murder her abusive husband. It's got Matthew McConaughey, Anne Hathaway, a bunch of really famous people.
Was that the...
No, the summary's to come.
Okay, I was going to say, if that's the summary, then that's all we need.
No, that's the topic sentence that I do every episode. You just don't really notice, because I'm quite good at sneaking it in. This time, I changed my tone and intonation for some reason.
And it turned into the summary, and I thought it was a summary. It was a very short summary.
But no, this film is so weird.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, did you like it?
I don't know. I've seen it twice now, and both times I just got to the end and I kind of went, I don't know if I liked it.
I enjoyed up to a point this film. Like, I remember there being a point like halfway through the film when I was like, I'm really enjoying this. Like, and I didn't know about the twist. I was like, I really like this. Like, I like where this is going. Right. I like the tension. I don't know what's going to happen, which is usually a good thing.
Yep.
And then, like, 10 minutes later, I'm like, nah, never mind. This film fucking sucks. I hate it. All the tension is gone.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a hard one.
It's a really difficult one. I guess I'm going to do the summary.
All right.
And I apologize. Like, even trying to talk about this film after the fact is so difficult because it's so weird.
Yeah.
I'm just going to tell you what happened.
Sure.
And just try to...
Just lay it out.
Try to remember that someone wrote a script and they were like, make the film. And then
it got greenlit.
And then like a bunch of very talented people turned up on set and they got a bunch of money for it and they made a film.
Yeah.
So
and it's on YouTube for $6. Australian.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone knows this. We buy most of our films on YouTube.
Surprisingly, the best service for getting films.
And cheapest, most reliable.
If it's not on Netflix, it's probably on YouTube, and it's probably like $5.
Hey, why aren't I just buying them on the shared DCM Works account, and then we'll talk about it later. Anyway, then we don't have to buy it twice. So, summary time.
DCM Works.
We need to have
films get bought
we need
twice.
To have production conversations off camera. Okay. Stay with me. Baker Dill is a fishing boat captain living a quiet and sheltered life on an island off the coast of Florida.
Okay, continue.
He spends his days leading tours off a tranquil tropical enclave called Plymouth Island and is obsessed with catching Justice, an elusive giant fish.
Tuna.
Is it? Okay. One day, his ex-wife Karen tracks him down with a desperate plea for help. She begs Dill to save her and the young son from her new violent husband, Frank, offering Dill 10 million big ones to drop her husband into the ocean for the sharks to eat. She tells Dill that Frank will be arriving later in that week, and that they have booked Dill for a fishing trip, the perfect opportunity for Dill to throw him overboard. Torn between what is right and wrong, Dill is thrust back into a life he tried to forget, as his world is plunged into a new reality that may not all be what it seems. It soon becomes apparent that Dill is a character in a computer game. Fuck
Sorry,
me.
continue.
Fuck me. One designed by his son, Patrick. Dill, whose real name is John Mason, was killed in Iraq in 2006. Patrick had based the character on a memory of his father taking him fishing when he was 3 years old. They didn't catch any fish, which is why Dill can't catch justice. But when Karen, a widow, remarries, Patrick later introduces his mother and abusive stepfather as new characters in the game, and changes Dill's task from catching tuna to murdering his stepfather. Dill soon begins to realize that he and the other inhabitants of Plymouth Island are merely characters created by his son. Nevertheless, he decides to go along with the objective of killing Frank. As Dill carries out the objective, Patrick summons up the courage to confront Frank in real life, and stabs him the fuck in the chest with a knife that used to belong to his father. Frank dies, and Patrick is charged with murder, but he is released into his mother's custody while awaiting trial. He designs a new computer game in which he and his father are reunited.
But like, what does it mean?
I just...
What does it mean?
My main thing is like...
Explain the ending to me, YouTube star David McNeill.
There already are so many videos out there that do that, and they're all bad. I'll say this: if you run a channel based on explaining video game and like, or it's like film or video game,
video game endings,
whatever it is to people, like I'm fine with that. Don't get me wrong, but unless you're doing it and you also hate it, then get the fuck out. Like unless you're like the Mr. Sunday movies of the industry, where you're like the new Avengers trailer comes out and you're like, fuck, I have a family and a child, and I'm awake at 2 a.m. making a fucking trailer breakdown, and half of his video on the new Avengers Endgame like trailer is him being like, it's fucking 2 a.m. My kid's asleep in the next room. It's like, unless you're doing that, fucking get a real job. But what I would say is, I don't even know if this film works. So I've watched it twice.
Right.
And there are some cool moments that I like. I like when he opens the map on the... And you go,
he just has this big map with a tiny island.
And you're like, what the fuck? And it's funny, but at the same time, it's like, wait, what's...
Okay, what I like, and this was sort of before the twist happened, and it's kind of like, it's a lot of like absurdity, and it's kind of similar to like where he pulls out the map and it's this huge map with a tiny island. There's so many points in this film where they really lean into, if you know the twist, there's parts that make sense. Mm-hmm. You're like, I know why characters are acting in this way. But if you don't know the twist, it's really like kind of interesting, and you start realizing things. I made this comment. So Laura knew the twist. We were watching it together. I didn't. And I made a comment sort of like towards the start of the film, and I was like, there's 2 characters in this film. There's Dill and there's everyone else, which is accurate when you know the twist, which is he's in a video game and these are all just NPCs.
Well, they're written
because there'll be like a conversation where Dill will have. He'll have one conversation between like 3 different people where he'll go from one person, they'll give him the first half of the conversation,
but it all flows like it's one person.
It just flows through, and as a viewer you're just like, they sort of, you're like, it's like a small town, a small island, like word gets around, but it's like word is getting around very quickly. And like the guy in the suit who's just pure ridiculousness, like up until the point where he gets revealed who he is, and you're like, I'm not a fan of that now. I don't know. Him just like walking through the water at the start of the film where he takes his shoes off and then just wades through like waist high water. I'm like, what is this film?
That's something out of
it's out of it's like, did we watch that Quentin Dupieux film?
Yes.
Yeah. Shit. That film about a guy trying to find his dog.
I could look it up.
It's that film. Like it's
on our channel. That's what I was gonna say. It reminded me of where it's like, they're in the office building in that film,
and it's raining,
and the sprinklers are just on, and it rains inside all the time.
And they're just fine with it. Like there's bits of that, and for me, I like getting the reveal. That was the point where I was like, like they're kind of just like explaining.
Can you explain before? Because I got a lot of analysis I want to do. Can you explain the twist with the guy in the suit, just for anyone who hasn't seen it?
I don't know. he's part of the, I guess he's part of, like, he knows he's part of the computer game, I guess.
He's kind of like Agent Smith almost, where he's like part of regulating
he's sort of
the
self-aware. He's the closest to like a real acknowledgement of the world that they're in, where it's almost as if he's like an outsider. He's like separate from the video game. And he's sort of coming. It's the problem I have with him is that when you sort of have this video game metaphor and you have this metaphor
The film
that,
is called Wrong.
yes,
By-
wrong.
Quentin
God.
Tarantino.
When you sort of have this premise of like, okay, he's Dill is in a video game, and it's kind of implied that he's an artificial intelligence. Like Patrick's
Patrick's a kid. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's like
Patrick
built-
has made an AI of his dad.
Like
That's what there's bits where they sort of there's like audio snippets when he's in the water swimming butt naked and you get to see his butt. And they're doing like snippets of
Who the fuck is Matthew McConaughey anymore? Like I just
and they sort of have snippets of like, oh, artificial intelligence and stuff. So it's like my idea was just like, oh, he's made this AI and then he's put him in this world. And they could have sort of done like really interesting things because with artificial intelligence, and this is sort of like a technical thing.
this is why I wanted to get your opinion.
Yeah,
on it.
with artificial intelligence, the way you sort of build it and the way most like advanced AI works and why YouTube is a mess is that you don't give it rules, you just give it a goal and then like the environment. So you say, I want you to do this. So for YouTube, it's I want you to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And then they give it the environment of just here's all the YouTube videos.
Here's every video.
And then YouTube will, the algorithm or the AI, it's an AI, will start recommending videos to make the most money. And this Dill is sort of, he's an AI and his goal is catch the fish.
Right.
And where it gets interesting is when you have, when you ask YouTube engineers, and people have sort of done this, is like, how does the algorithm work? They respond with, we don't know.
We don't know.
Because that's how AI works. It has a goal, you give it in the environment, and it just kind of does it. And I was sort of, when the twist was sort of revealed, I was thinking back, I was like, well, they could have gone down that path where it's like, Dill is sort of, he's an artificial intelligence made by Patrick, and Patrick has made this world for him to, that's the environment that he lives in, and he's giving him the goal, which is to catch the fish.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's kind of interesting because then if you take an AI that's really good at doing one thing, but then try to make it do something else, it tends to fall over. So I was like, oh, it's like they're trying to, he's like, all right, you've changed. Yeah. When he's like, he's changed the rules, that's like, he's just changed the goal. Yeah. It's like, all this stuff is really interesting, but like enough of it is weirdly wrong. Where it's like, they were clearly like, we want to do like a techie kind of inspired with like AI and stuff, but they didn't do enough research.
It sounds like what would happen if you called me on like a Friday night and I was like, hey Ben, how does AI work? And I'm writing a script, right?
Right.
And I write it and then I never consult with you again.
Yeah.
Like we have one phone call and then I go, great, I'll write the script and I'll put it out the door.
Yeah.
And then you see the film and you're like, dude, it's
like, even for me on like I can like imagine they went to an AI specialist and an AI person told them, all right, you have this thing called a rational agent. And because sort of in the technical term, a rational agent is the AI bit. It takes the input, it has a goal, it does the output.
Yeah.
The rational agent isn't like the robot. So if you have like a robot that is meant to walk around and do things, the rational agent is like the brain. So it's not the robot itself.
How it makes decisions.
Yeah. So I feel like in this film they were like, okay, Dill's the robot, but and the Fontaine person, he's the agent. He's the agent. He's the agent. We're going to dress him up like Agent Smith. We're going to make him look like a fancy person.
It did seem like their interpretation, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, but that's not what a rational agent is. Like, if Dill he's kind of the robot and the agent, like, they kind of mucked up their metaphor.
The allegory kind of falls apart then.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's serviced well. Okay, so people fucking hate this film.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
just, this film isn't good.
But what I will say is, there's a lot of stuff about it that I didn't like, but I could kind of see what they were trying to do. I'm going to pull up the quote from... I didn't fucking save it for some reason, but...
Nice.
Well, normally I goes into my notes, but I just didn't. There was a quote from Stephen Knight where he basically was like, I know people are going to hate this. Like, which I love.
Well, it's a very... I mean, it's not... Yeah, it's not a traditional film. Like, it's...
But the question that I want to interrogate throughout our kind of exploration here is like whether it's actually good or not, because that's, and like I know that we're not people that give anything scores. We're like, but like what we're trying to work out is like if it has value. And I'm just gonna find this quote from Knight here. Yeah, Knight said, and I'm gonna paraphrase this, but he basically said, I was expecting the negative reviews. People weren't gonna get this film, and that's fine. It wasn't for people. It was for me. Which, here's the thing. Normally, I'd be like, yeah, you go get them. Like, you go do your art. but I don't think it works. So here's the thing.
So
I think the film thinks it's more clever than it is.
yeah, talking about like films that people don't get and are made for the director, there's this really good time travel film called Primer that we're gonna watch. I'm gonna make you watch it at some point. That's definitely a film that is like, a lot of people don't understand it. The people who get it really like it, and it's definitely a film for the director. For one, he stars in it. Like, he literally, like, he's also like an engineer.
Yeah.
So like, he wrote this really technical film, which is really solid. It's about time travel. It does really well, and it's really fucking hard to watch. And it's kind of like this, where it's like there's so many twists and turns, but it's actually executed well.
This doesn't quite get that.
Yeah, it's a kind of thing where it's just like, if this was made for you, are you a game designer? Do you have a son who's kind of going through, are you the stepdad? Like, where are you in this film?
Yeah, who's the...
If this film is for you, what part of this film is for you?
That's the crucial thing, right? Because I don't want to touch too much on like authorial intent or like death of the author or anything like that, because I don't think it necessarily has a place in this story or this reading of what we're going to talk about, but it's definitely worth saying, well, normally when you watch a film, it's like when we watch Don John,
right?
That film is the person who, like, the protagonist that you identify with is John.
Yeah.
Where you're like Joseph Gordon-Levitt is the point of view character, but more so than that, the film is from someone who's been through those experiences of addiction, right? It's from that perspective. And in the same way that, like, when you watch, fluffy trash nonsense like Captain Marvel, where it's like a fun action film, right?
Right.
You identify with the hero because you go, yeah, I have empathy and compassion and I want to stand up for what's right.
Yeah.
It's an easy analog for you to, like, you can take away the abstraction. But who in this film, like, in The Matrix, which isn't, like, people compared it to The Matrix, in The Matrix, you get where Neo's coming from, because he's just a normal dude. Like, he's a normal office schlub who's also a coder.
When you have that hero's journey, you're able to just that first step is literally just like, we got to get the viewer, the reader, the consumer,
let's let them understand
the main
world.
character,
right? And that this film
doesn't have that step one,
And some of the dialogue in this, and you kind of touched on it too, is I think a lot of people read it as corny, where they have those, like, where he says something and then 3 or 4 people continue the conversation.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of people, like, there was a comment that I read where they said that it was so bad to the point of being self-parody. But I think, and one of my biggest reads on this film is I think a lot of people miss the point. Like, because when you get to that twist, when the twist happens, I went, oh, I have to watch it again. Yeah. And then I watched it again and I went, dude, this is really interesting. Like, I don't know if it's good or not, but I was like, oh, I can see what they were trying to do. They were trying to have that, like, kids that write video games and young people that write video games do that kind of dialogue where, it's that round table, like, everyone takes their turn to speak. It doesn't happen in real life.
Yeah, and, like, the weird, like, sort of flipped kind of narrative with him and who's the woman's name who he sleeps with, and she pays him and he brings her cat. It's basically just like a daily quest from, like, an MMO, where it's just like, I log on every day, I get the cat, I burn the woman, I get the gold.
Right, it's the
I do that every day because I play World of Warcraft. It's like, it's weird because you're like, okay, it's like, she's paying him. Like, my brain doesn't accept that because I live in a patriarchal society. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if
Matthew McConaughey slept with me every day, I'd pay him.
I'd pay him to bring my cat home. But when you get the twist, like, that kind of stuff makes sense. But it almost doesn't go in hard enough.
That's kind of my reading too. So one of my biggest things about this is, like, the concept outweighs the execution. If you're going to explore, because so normally what happens, so when we say video game movie, what we normally mean is a movie based on a video game.
Yeah.
But this is a movie about video games. To an extent, it could have been about that. It's not quite like that. I think you're right, because you could have gone in and you could have been like, you could imagine a different version of this film where it all feels like kind of quests he's checking off a list.
They could have done like the Cornetto trilogy, kind of like speed cuts showing his day-to-day routine, where, like, he does the same thing every day, and you're like, that's interesting. He's doing the same thing every day. Maybe it's a video game.
You could even, like, do 3 or 4 sequences, and the more he does, then the less he gets from them.
Yeah, and
little things like that.
With when the Fontaine guy comes along, is like trying to catch him up, and he's just like, he's 20 seconds off schedule. That really early, you're like, oh, like, that's interesting. My brain was like, is this a time travel film? But it's like,
I went to that.
They never show, that line is really misplaced because they never show the always on time nature of you never see him always leave at exactly the same time. So when he comes along and says he's 20 seconds off schedule, my brain was immediately like, oh, you must be a time traveler, or else why would you know that he's leaving at whatever arbitrary time he would leave at?
Which you said before, we don't have that first hero's journey section where you get the ordinary world.
Yeah.
The biggest sin
There's
of this
nothing
film
ordinary about this film.
There's no betting of the concepts, and there's no first act to get.
I mean,
the
it
exposition
opens
in.
with him hooking this giant fucking tuna,
right?
And for that to be the opening shot, that's the only grounding you have as being the normal world, is that he wants to catch the fish, which is like a big part of the film, but it's not enough to hold up the rest of the interactions he has when he's not catching the fish.
You need to say his
the
normal
fish
day
twice in this film. Once at the start of the film and once at the climax.
End,
There's no normality in that.
We need a single sequence, and it can be 50. It'd be like if you opened Jaws and you didn't see Hooper just faffing around the town before all the stuff happens with the shark.
Or you didn't see people just at the beach enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
It's just shark attack.
Yeah, you'd be like,
what the?
You'd be like, well, what's the normal world look like?
Yeah, are shark attacks normal?
Are they constant?
Is this Pacific Rim?
Because you don't know. Yeah, you don't know exactly. Exactly that. There is no betting of these concepts. So then when the twists occur, you go, well, is it a twist or is this normal? Yeah. And I think, when we talk about things being derivative, and the biggest criticism at God is it's the writing's corny, the twist is fucking weird, and a lot of people just don't get it, and they were like, well, it's derivative, it's lazy, and I'm like, I don't think that's the problem. I think it being derivative and lazy is kind of the point.
I never sort of thought, at once it would have been like, oh, it's like the Matrix, but it was never a major point of focus for me. I was never oh, this is just a worse Matrix.
I think in the sense that it's just a noir film, but it happens to be set. I think it wants to be like Bloodline, or it wants to be like Ozark, or these kind of new thriller, noir films that are set in, obviously Ozark copied Bloodline, but they're these thrillers set in small kind of beach country settlements in America, and the Ozarks is obviously the Ozarks peninsulas, and they have that tension of it's a small town, but there's this fishing industry and all that stuff, and it just feels like this film wanted to be that, but then also this whole other thing, and in doing both, there's this big gap in the middle.
Yeah, and I found the tension of the fish to be quite engaging. I found sort of at that midpoint, when he's fired his second hand, and they're at the bar, and this is one of the sort of 3-person conversations he has, but he's talking to his second hand, where he's told his second hand about the offer that he got from his ex-wife, and they sort of cut through time, and then it's implied that he's told him, and he gives him this sort of this rundown where it's just you're a good man, just he's offering you $10,000 to just take him out. It's 2 for me, 8 for you.
It's 10 million, by the way.
10,000 for just taking him out. 10 million for killing him. Although I think that 2 for me, 8 for anyway. Long story short,
sorry. Yeah.
He sort of gives this, he presents to him this idea. It's just you either catch the fish or you kill the man. And I was like, oh my God, I have no idea what's going to happen.
Right.
I was like, I don't know. Because he could do either.
And that's such a good, Ben, it's such a good idea.
And, it's the kind of thing where that kind of storyline, that kind of noir, tension, when you don't have the setup of the hero's journey, those kind of two purely just abstract concepts, you get engaged because you kind of... Because on just a base idea, you can understand, okay, killing people is bad, but 10 million, but also this fish, we have this idea because of the start of the film, which is really well presented, where he's fucking killing himself to get this fish in, and he gets so close.
Fish.
You're like, I don't know, it could go either way.
Well, here's
and then it gets revealed it's a video game, and he's like, well, I guess I got to kill the guy, and you're like, no.
Well, he's
so set on killing the guy, and then even when they do bring the fish in, you're like, I don't care. He's not going to catch the fish because I know he's going to kill the guy.
Hey, bud, the fish is called Justice. So
when he said the fish was called Justice, I was like, he's going to catch the fish and then going to say justice is served.
Well,
because he's a tuna, right? Justice is served.
I'm done. I didn't even think of that. No, but because
that was my first thought.
Well, because if the options are you catch the fish or you kill the guy.
Yeah.
If you catch the fish, the courts come through and his mum is saved from the abusive husband,
Right.
justice prevails.
Yeah.
Or justice doesn't prevail and you have to do the other thing. So it's this really lazy, like,
But then it's the thing where they're like,
one-step metaphor.
He kills him with justice. Like, he catches justice and then gives him the hook.
Listen, bud.
And he's like, you want to know what this fish's name is? This fish is called Justice. You're like, I know. You don't have to tell me again, film.
That's where it kind of fell
For
apart
me, I was just like, no. And then the kid goes out and stabs his dad. You're like, wait, what?
It doesn't...
This metaphor makes no sense anymore.
It's like they went, guys, people do a lot of allegory in film. We can do one. And then no
It's like,
one...
Why does...
It never went to a writer's room. It just Steven... Because Stephen Knight wrote the whole thing and directed it. And it seems like no one ever said, hey, Steve, like...
And I mean, my takeaway from that ending is similar to the idea where it's just like he's an AI, where the son is like, I need to know what my dad would do in this situation. That kind of comes back to the whole, like, when he rings him and he's just like, I did a bad thing. And Dill's like, nah, you did what was right, even though it's a bad thing. I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Like, he's developed this AI so that he
has
could,
a relationship with.
Yeah, with his dad, so that he could know what his dad would do in the situation he's in. And because he had given this AI catch the fish, and in the end, he was like, no, I'm not going to catch the fish. I'm going to kill the dad. The kid was like, I'm going to kill the dad.
Doesn't make sense.
But it's a weird kind of like jump. You're like, you wrote a computer program that basically flips a coin a bunch of times.
Yeah, it's a fucking AI.
And then you're like, this computer told me to kill my dad. Like, that's like Florida man kills his dad because his computer told him to. Like, it's just
a bad episode of Black Mirror.
It is. It really is, yeah.
I was thinking about Bandersnatch, right? And the Bandersnatch is a worse version of this, but this is still a bad version of a good episode of Black Mirror.
I mean, Bandersnatch is better than this.
I disagree.
Bandersnatch is...
Disagree.
I liked Bandersnatch.
I did. You're the only one! If Adam Adley, if you're still in the chat, tell Ben he's wrong. No, look, what I would say, I think... I'm really conflicted because it explores a lot of those themes of, like, reality, and, like, there was a whole meta reading I had prepared about, like, Lacan and, like, you know, the imagined real and, like, delving back to that. But then I watched it a second time. Like, I did all that research and wrote it down. I watched it a second time and I went, I don't know that the film... Shut up, Google. I don't know the film is that interested in, like... I don't think the film is that interested in philosophy or, like, what it means. I think, genuinely, they were trying to write a cool thriller with a cool twist.
And
it just snowballed, and then no one said, hey, guys, don't... Make it anything but a video game. Make it like a memory or like a magic thing.
Well, just don't make it any of those things.
Just tell a really good thriller on an island with... Because the trailer... I don't know if you watched just the trailer for this film. It looks like the best fucking thriller. Like, it's so well cut, and it's like... Like, you don't know what's going to happen. Like, honestly, the trailer is so good.
Or like a Shutter Island situation, where it's like...
100%.
Yeah.
But, like, lacks the talent from the people that made Shutter Island. Like, you know, those directors who kind of have gone on to work on some of the best projects that are out there. Stephen Knight kind of was left to his own devices. And one of the things I think that really hamstrung this film, as far as its success is concerned, is they tested it with audiences. Like, they did a test screen they normally do to, like, decide who to market it to. And everyone hated it.
Yeah.
And they said to Stephen Knight, they were like, should we kill it? And he was like, fuck no. Like, I made the film that I wanted to make. So, as much as I don't love it,
it's a weird film to, like, want to make.
I think what he wanted to do was, he's
just a thriller, and then put a twist in, because
thrillers used to do that. Twists, like, you know, the detective would turn out to have, like, you know, when he's trying to catch the crook, it'd turn out that, like, the crook's his brother or something. Like, it's like L.A. Noire, which is a great game. Like, that has some really cool twists in it. That, by the way, if you haven't played L.A. Noire, it's one of the best games that's out there.
I'm very close to finishing it. I think
it's so good.
I think I need to push through and finish it. Yeah.
Finish it. I reckon you have to play it in just a single sitting. Like, not a single sitting, but, like, in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Get the whole story.
Go back.
It's genius.
Yeah.
I would start it again. But, like, that story is... The twists are very simple, but they're intriguing because they add layers of complexity. I think my concern with the twist in this film, and a lot of why everyone just shrugged and went, huh? Is that it doesn't... While it adds complexity to the thing you're watching, it doesn't necessarily add complexity to the decision that Dill makes.
Yeah.
And I think that's
if anything, it just completely deflates any sort of consequence of his actions.
What would be better is if he tries to resist and the system fights back. And it's kind of an Inception-style problem where it's like because, you know, Inception, when you disrupt the subconscious and they fight back, I
was waiting for that kind of thing.
That would have been cool.
And it never...
The programming tries to correct it.
It gets close where he's talking to the shopkeeper, and he's asking like these probing questions,
And the
she's
shopkeeper
just
just
kind of like
resets.
blanking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she just like resets. I was like, I wanted more of that when the twist happened, but instead we just kind of got like a 20-minute. Just like, okay, the climax has happened, basically. Like, he knows it's a video game, and he's decided he's 100% gonna kill the stepdad. And then it just kind of goes on and on and on.
Kind of trails
as
off.
they keep just, like, explaining the fact that, yeah, he's in a video game, and you're just like, I don't care.
What I want to find out is if he catches the fish or kills the guy, get to the point. Like,
Yeah.
you're at that point, you're like, just fucking shut
And then,
up.
like, the sort of the bit where it's just like, oh, no, he's gotten his hand broken, and he's been beat to shit. He's not going to be able to go on the boat anymore, but he is, because his wife's just going to convince him. Like, there's no... They keep trying to, like... There's, like, 3 points where they try to throw, like, a curveball into, like, the plan where it's like, he's been beat to shit because the second mate sent some goons on him. The kid is snuck onto the boat, stowed away on the boat. We can't kill a man in front of this kid, but we totally can because it doesn't matter. We're just going to do it anyway. And it's like, there's just...
But it all gets solved immediately. It's what I call the George Lucas problem. Where
But there's a problem and George Lucas just goes, don't worry, I'll fix it in a minute.
he's... Well, kind of, like, he's so...
He's the ultimate handyman. He just comes in and fixes a problem immediately.
Well, like in scenes, right? Like, he's so afraid of his characters being in conflict because he loves them all so much. He's like, I love Anakin, I love everyone. So the minute there's a problem, they solve it immediately.
Yeah.
Like, by the end of the
they
scene,
can't
it's
hate
gone.
each other. Yeah.
Yeah, there can't be any long-seated conflict.
Right.
It has to be like, is it fixing the scene? If yes...
Or if they are going to hate each other, one of them just has to die just right there. We can't...
Well, that solves the conflict.
Yeah.
Because one of them's dead. Like, that's a thing he does.
Yeah.
Watch my fucking 3-part Star Wars prequel breakdown on the Antagonist channel. But, like, that's kind of what this film does, where it's like, here's a bunch of interesting conflict. We're going to solve it immediately, and it's going to be boring.
Yeah.
And what it speaks to me is a writer who had a great idea for a film that he wanted to do, but had none of the experience or the theory behind it to execute on those ideas. So what ends up happening is the ideas and the concepts take over the execution, and always execution has to come first. The best stuff that we talk about, the stuff that we love, the stuff that we break and get into and crack into, and we're like, wow, this is so complex and interesting. It executes well, and then everything else flows from that. And this film fails conceptually because it can't execute on its concepts,
Yeah.
and fails conceptually because ultimately what it's trying to explore isn't as interesting as it thinks it is.